I'd recommend Royal Caribbean to just about anybody to go on a cruise, but there are some things that they do that truly bother me. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Like a good friend, sometimes you have to let your friends know that they're not doing things the way they should be doing. And in the case of Royal Caribbean, while I think they're a fabulous cruise line, and I will cruise on them every single time, every single year, the reality is there are some things that I just don't like about Royal Caribbean, and I wanted to share my list of the things that really bother me about them, starting with number one, that is not enforcing the rules. If Royal Caribbean could fix one thing and never fix anything else in the fleet, it would be the enforcement of rules that theoretically exist. There are a number of policies and rules that are in place, but they seem to be very loosely enforced, if at all. I'm talking about things like dress codes, enforcing where you can smoke, curfews, and much more. There are a number of inconsistent policies that Royal Caribbean has, and as somebody who follows the rules, it really drives me up a wall when they don't enforce the rules that are in play. Certainly, the lack of enforcement of dress codes is something I've talked about before, where if you want to have dress codes, that is fine. Enforce them. Otherwise, let's get rid of them completely, because as of right now, they're totally unenforced. When you see dress codes for the main dining room, whether it's formal night or casual night or Caribbean night, there is no enforcement. You can literally roll in a bathing suit, and I'm willing to bet they will still let you dine there. The issue is, I think Royal Caribbean has come to the conclusion that there is no winning in enforcing the rules, because if they tell somebody they're doing something wrong, it's a negative guest experience. And while other people who are unaffected by it but observe that someone's not observing the rules, it's less of an issue for them because Royal Caribbean doesn't get that negative feedback. It's one thing if someone tells you you're doing something wrong. It's quite another if you think somebody else is doing something wrong. It's just more of a moral issue. Anyway, the point is they really need to enforce these rules. Now, things like where you can smoke, and certainly vaping has become a big issue, where people are vaping in public areas, people are smoking marijuana on their balconies, and if you actually try to call Royal Caribbean security about this, in a lot of cases, unless they can catch them doing it in the act, it's utterly useless. And I really want Royal Caribbean to enforce whatever rules they have on the books. I'm not here to tell you which rules should or should not be on Royal Caribbean's books. I'm not the arbiter of that. I'm simply saying, if you want to have a rule, let's enforce the rule. Another example of them not enforcing these rules really relates to, of course, the check-in times. When you check in for your Royal Caribbean cruise, you're assigned a check-in time, and coming out of 2020 and 2021, Royal Caribbean made a big stink about this being a big deal. In fact, if you still get emails today, they will tell you you could be turned away if you show up early. The reality is, you're probably not. I'm not willing to go as far as say that you can completely ignore them like you could pre-2020, but at this point, it's very close to it, in that I cannot recall the last time somebody asked me for my check-in time and actually made me wait for whatever time it was in a specific queue. Most of the time, 99% of the time I go there, it has been simply they just let you go in as soon as the terminal is ready to accept people. Ultimately, from a guest experience standpoint, I just want consistency with policies. And if you're going to enforce the policy, great, I will follow it. I'll be first in line for it. But otherwise, it penalizes the people that follow the rules and enables people that don't follow the rules. And I feel like that's the wrong message to be sending to passengers. The second thing that Royal Caribbean does that really bothers me, and this is more of a today thing than it was recently, and that is cutbacks when they're making tons of money. Now, when Royal Caribbean was coming out of the cruise industry shutdown of 2020 and 2021, I think we all understood why cutbacks were made. One of the most noticeable changes that Royal Caribbean made was the reduction of housekeeping from twice a day to once a day if you're staying in a standard cabin. And when they were in a situation where they were literally bleeding money, they had gargantuan debt on their hands, I understood exactly why these changes need to be made, because they needed to be fiscally solvent in order to stay afloat and still be here come the future. Well, we're in the future now, and Royal Caribbean is literally making money hand over fist. They're doing so well financially, they're paying back so many of their loans that they took that they're actually reinstated the shareholder dividend, which is clearly a sign of a healthy state of company affairs, and they're launching new financial goals to better the returns for investors. That is great news for everybody that owns stock within Royal Caribbean. But what bothers me now is we're in a situation where Royal Caribbean should be doing more for its passengers to give them more value. Prices are going up. And listen, prices of everything are going up. So I'm not going to sit here and pontificate about the cruise price issue. The thing is, Royal Caribbean should be offering more value back in now that they're in a better situation. I've got some good examples of specific cases where they should. The most notable one came up actually in December when Royal Caribbean informed, well, they didn't really inform guests. The genie started informing guests after they booked the cruise that there would be surcharges for certain venues if they book Star Class. Let's remember, Star Class is the most expensive experience on a Royal Caribbean ship, in which some of the cabins cost tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, like the Ultimate Family Townhouse or the Royal Loft Suite on Legend of the Seas or Star of the Seas costs literally, I'm not exaggerating here, $100,000 for a week on that ship. So for $100,000 for 4 people, you still have to pay a $50 surcharge for Chef's Table or a $60 surcharge for Izumi Omakase, which of course doesn't exist on Legend, but I digress. How about paying $15 a person for Izumi Hibachi? I simply don't know why there's any surcharges for Star Class, especially if you're paying that much. If you want to add those surcharges on for like a Utopia of the Seas, which is only a 3-night cruise, and the cost of a Star Class cabin is only $15,000 or so, okay, I still think that's egregious, but like, this is a classic example of Royal Caribbean overreaching, in my opinion, when they're already making a ton of money on clearly this type of cabin. Speaking of dining, if you buy the unlimited dining package, you only have a $20 credit per day to use at Playmakers or Izumi. And I kind of understand this one to some extent because, of course, people were really abusing this quite a bit in the sense that they were going there over and over and over again. But I think that really is the definition of an outlier. I really don't think most people were doing that. At any rate, now that they're making money again, I think it may be time to look at that. Ultimately, what I want Royal Caribbean to do is start investing back into its line instead of looking for ways to cut down on prices or even raise prices, but add more value. Give people what they're looking for. It's one thing to raise prices. I get it. It costs money to do business. At the same time, though, let's see more value come back to it. Something else I would love to see Royal Caribbean do that they don't do, and it really does bother me, is a lack of transparency with casino offers. Now, if you're not a gambler, this probably won't apply to you. But when it comes to Royal Caribbean and how they offer casino offers, like what I'm talking about is basically if you go into Royal Caribbean's casino and put in your SeaPass card at any point, you automatically qualify for Royal Caribbean's Casino Royale loyalty program. Now, really, in order to get a free cruise offer, you need to gamble probably more than like $20, like my neighbor Ben does. He does about $30 and then runs away like a giggling girl because he just thinks he spent all of his money. Any rate, the thing is, Royal Caribbean doles out free offers to people who gamble a lot. The issue is it's really not clear how or why they're offered. There are many situations people who will gamble thousands of dollars receive no offers, but my neighbor Ben gets a free cruise offer. This is kind of this weird nuance, and it happens more often than you think. Now, I get that in some cases, some of these offers are more targeted. At any rate, it would just be more helpful to understand how these free cruise offers from the casino are offered, because right now, it's a complete mystery how it works, and more often than not, when you talk to people that gamble a lot in the casino, the free mystery offers that you just get in the mail or somewhere else aren't well known at all as to when you can expect them, if at any. Next up is something that happens twice a year, and that is Royal Caribbean puts out its new deployments, which is great. New sailings you can book on ships all over the world. The thing is, Royal Caribbean still sticks to this myth that Crown and Anchor members receive some sort of advance notice ahead of the general public. What I mean by this is, if you read Royal Caribbean's press releases and you look into your Crown and Anchor benefits, Crown and Anchor members are supposed to get a 24-hour advance opportunity to book these new sailings as one of their core benefits. This goes all the way back to the Gold members, let alone being Diamond or Pinnacle or anything like that. The thing is, it's a complete and utter lie because there is no benefit. Basically, what this means is Royal Caribbean won't advertise it in their public channels, but anybody can book a cruise as soon as they become available on the website or through your travel agent or even by calling the cruise line. There's no verification process, and there's no means of which to limit people who are not Crown and Anchor members from booking a brand new cruise when the new deployments come out. I think this really plays back into the first issue I had with Royal Caribbean enforcing policies and whatnot. But if they're going to advertise this as one of the major benefits of being a Crown and Anchor member, and they still do this, by the way, again, in the press releases when they say, well, these new sailings will go on sale for Crown and Anchor members on this date and 24 hours later to the general public, it's a bold-faced lie because there is nothing preventing somebody who's never been on a cruise to book a cruise, and that bugs me. And lastly, speaking of deployment, something that's kind of newsworthy or noteworthy as of the time this video is coming out, and that is, it really does bother me that Royal Caribbean has no loyalty to home ports. Now, it's a business, and I'm the first one to bring that up every single time, so I completely understand where they're coming from. But the reality is, it still bothers me when Royal Caribbean looks at certain ports and says, we're not going to offer cruises from here anymore. Now, I'm not talking about Miami or New York or Barcelona. I'm really talking about those second and third tier home ports. And this is really apparent because Baltimore is the one port that just got noticed. They're not going to have any cruises beginning in October of 2026. Now, I don't think this is going to be an LA situation where they're going to go like 10 years without a ship based there. I really believe this will be more of a seasonal thing, maybe a one-time thing. I mean, I think there are going to be cruises again in Baltimore very, very soon. But the thing is, it bothers me when there's no loyalty there, including Boston as an example. There are no cruises after this year in Boston for the foreseeable future. Now, Boston's always been a seasonal port, so I'm not expecting year-round sailings, but it kind of feels bad when you've got 30 ships in the fleet, more than they've ever had, and we can't spread the ships around better. Like, as an example, with the Baltimore situation, there are going to be a number of ships in Tampa and none in Baltimore, and I feel like I have a hard time believing that Tampa is truly that much more lucrative than Baltimore, but I mean, I don't have access to the numbers, so that's just a gut feeling. Anyway, it does bother me there's no loyalty to home ports out there. Now, if you live in the middle of the country, or you have to fly no matter what your cruise is, this is less of an issue, I feel like. It's really more of an issue if you live near these ports, but it is something to keep in mind, and of course, the fact that there will always be new deployments and new home ports every single year. All right, I feel a little bit better getting all that off my chest. And just to prove to all of you that there are things Royal Caribbean does that I don't absolutely love, and this is my list over here. If you have your list of things that you kind of wish Royal Caribbean didn't do, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. While you're down below, everybody, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on bell notifications. You'd be amazed how few people turn on that bell notification. It's free. All it does is alert you when you have a new video. We don't spam you with messages or anything like that. And that way, you never miss one of these amazing videos, if I do say so myself. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.